Hey, welcome back to the CRP. Miguel Adorati here, and it's Wednesday night, and that means that the Wednesday Night Wars are front and center of the attention here at the CRP. I am joined by my man Snake Eyes, and we've been giving the attention to AEW. Obviously, they won the ratings war the first week, and they got a lot of pop off of that. Uh, I like what Cody said about how they're just going to keep doing what they're doing, and the WWE rather seems to be kind of reacting to them and just trying to get bigger spots in Tyson Fury and The Rock, and they bought in every celebrity they could, and it just I don't know if it doesn't seem genuine or whatever, but I've enjoyed AEW's product. Today was the second episode on TNT. If you were expecting a drop off or a fallout in excitement, I don't think that was the case. I think they put on a really strong follow up show here. How'd you think, Steak?
I completely agree. Though it seems like those 2 hours go so fast because there's not. I mean, to AEW's credit, there's not a lot of talking. I mean, they did have the promo with Jericho, and then they had the promo at the end, basically. But I mean, that's really it. I mean, that 2 hours flies by way quicker than a WWE event. So yeah, it was an excellent second episode.
And why don't you take us through some of the matches here? I believe they led off with the Young Bucks and Private Party. Is that correct?
Yep, and I think that was the perfect match to start the night off. I mean, everybody is always excited to see the Young Bucks on television. So I putting them on first, I think hook the people in to kind of keep them in tune and in touch with the show. And then they actually put Private Party over. I mean, I honestly wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the Young Bucks to at least face the Lucha Brothers one more time. But I guess we're not going to see that anymore. So now Private Party's going on to the next round of the Take Tournament.
Well, I wouldn't particularly rule out another Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks, but they may be a year down the line. You know what I mean? And that may be the right way to present it than as an immediate follow up. So we'll see. What's interesting to me, the Bucks, Omega, Spears to a certain extent. A lot of the guys that didn't come over with a huge name from WWE are being asked to do the work, kind of to put over some of the other guys on the roster, whether they be newer guys or guys like Moxley and stuff who you do Moxley's character a lot of damage bringing him and starting to rack up losses right away, right? But Omega is going to be able to handle it, I think, with his delivery, personality, and confidence. And the Young Bucks, I think, fall in that same game. They're okay with letting some of the other guys go over because at the end of the day, they'll show up and they'll make it. It'll be interesting to see how the psychology plays out and the storytelling that goes on around that because any way you look at it, Tully Blanchard's charge is 0-2. And, that would be something that I would have labeled not likely. You know what I mean? Association with Blanchard should mean that you're winning, and he's not. So there are a couple of things that are still a little bit confusing, but it's only the second episode, so I expect things to hash out. And I think that their confidence in delivery has been strong, and that they're not really going to change what they do based on feedback and stuff. I think they have a good plan laid out, and the shows have been strong. In particular, in the Bucks' case, they on the all being the elite and on the weekly YouTube channel stuff. Um, them and Kenny Omega are starting to question each other and starting to look around and stuff. And Adam Page being a member of the elite, he had a run in on one of those shows, at the backstage with Dustin, where Dustin was like, "Where were you, man? I even showed up. I'm not in the elite." Um, and they wound up as a tag team this time. So I think that continuity is great because they're really using the YouTube channel as a way to fill in the stories and stuff like that, and give you some details and stuff. And so far, that's worked out real well. So, what do you think of the Dustin and Adam Page corroboration today?
It was a little strange. I mean, I know Paige said I'm being the elite, hey, I'll make it up to you, and then they formed the tag team for the night. Um, it was pretty cool. I mean, you saw the new generation and the old generation tag team. I mean, both of them. I mean, you had Jericho and Guevara, and then you had Paige and Dustin. I think it was kind of a cool way to kind of showcase the older talent and the newer talent in one match to kind of put the younger guys over. Um, I don't think the loss really hurt Hangman at all. Um, Sammy Guevara, the only thing that's really annoying to me about him is the constant sticking out of his tongue. He always sticks his tongue out, and it just drives me bonkers. I don't understand it. I'll probably never understand it. I might tweet him actually after this conversation and ask him about it because I know he's pretty good at getting back to people on Twitter. So maybe I'll get an answer back from him tonight yet.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I noticed that as well. I think watching some of his YouTube stuff and stuff, he does it on like selfies with people and stuff like that, and it really just gets to be a little, uh, it loses its effect. And the bottom line to me is Sammy Guevara is in a weird spot. You know what I mean? Because he's the younger indie talent. Like why is he getting the push and getting the rub from the bad guys and stuff? Whereas like Omega and Adam Page are having to take losses and stuff. So I'm not quite sure. This all adds up to me. And like I've stated to you in the past, Guevara to me, he's got babyface written all over it, but he would have to remold his character. You know what I mean? It's like but he's a good bad guy too. He's played the role real well, and he's taken uh, uh, everything in stride. So it hasn't been really bad. But I just, with the YouTube channel and how personable he is and stuff, you kind of get caught by surprise when he goes heel. But Sammy Guevara is now becoming a dangerous guy with like 3 wins, a couple of wins, here and there. There's beginning to add up on his side. So he's getting a good rub from the association with the bad guys. I like them bringing in Jack Hager as the strong silent type again, like an enforcer and things. Um, so yeah, overall, the Inner Circle, I guess, is going to be the name of the heel group under Chris Jericho. So definitely, adding to the storyline and bringing in additional stuff. Um, Again, Guevara, even Ortiz and Santana, you know, uh, Jericho, I don't know. The Jericho may be working with the guys they're giving him, and I think that's great. For that's what Jericho's there for. But we'll see how much legs this Inner Circle has, or what happens. It also appeared like MJF. I don't know. I don't know. What'd you think of the MJF sequence there?
It was pretty funny. I was just about to light a cigarette when that part of the show was going on, and when he had that look in his eye, I actually said out loud for the first time, reacting to a wrestling show, "Oh no!" And luckily he didn't turn his back. I know eventually it's gonna happen because MGF is the best heel in the business right now. But he had me. I mean, I stopped what I was doing and I made sure I paid attention. And when he attacked the LAX, then I was like, all right, we're good now. We're good for this episode at least.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think MJF, it's coming. It's eventually. It would have been way, way too soon. It would have done him a lot of harm. Like that. I think if you go back, to me the traditional old school, like older fighter, younger fighter rivalry is the Backlund, Bob Backlund, Peter Maivia, Larry Zabisco, all that trilogy. Those are the classics of the betrayal of the that type of thing. And that's where you could copy that here, and they would have made a grave mistake coming out episode 2 and having all that best friends and he's my mentor and he's the face now, I'm the face of the future. I mean, MJF sticking always to his character, adding the reverence to Cody, it would have all seemed so fake 2 weeks in and it's done already. And it would have been, I don't want to say WWE style,
Exactly what it would have been. WWE.
but you can't help but think that there are times where their storylines, it's like, what the hell? Did somebody hit fast forward for what happened there? And that would have been the case with MJF. They did a great job there, and um, they got him a good pop too, and he gets his pops because of the bad guy stuff there. But that I think a lot of people felt like I did, that it would have been too early and stuff. And so that pop was a very genuine pop that the character worked out, and I think that goes. My hats off to the creative there, that was the right way to go with that. What else did we have on the card? Why don't you pick the next fight here we could talk about?
Well, and just to note the fact, I mean, MJF when they were chanting his name and everything, he soaked it in for a second there. You could tell that he just that whole tilting his head back, closing. He soaked that moment in for a minute there because he doesn't get that a lot. So, it was really cool to see that. Let's talk about John Moxley and Sean Spears. Tully, I mean, come on, still he's got to be one of the best managers in the game right now. I mean, being out of the business for like 30 years, coming back, managing Sean Spears. Granted, his client, isn't winning, but he's pulling his gimmick to a T. Sean Spears looks great in the ring. I was hoping he was going to have the contacts again tonight, but he didn't. I think that really actually accentuates the look and the seriousness to Sean Spears. So if I were Sean Spears, I'd be wearing those crazy contacts every single match I was working. But nonetheless, a good back and forth match. You had the classic Sean Spears with the heel manager, and Mox just looked fierce. He looked ready right out the gate. I think tonight he was trying to prove a point to WWE. I think tonight was his big middle finger to WWE. And not to backtrack, but when Jericho cut his promo and the crowd was chanting "We the People" and he cut it off by saying that was made by stupid creative and is dead and buried. I did pop on that line as well, by the way. Um,
Yep,
what did
he threw in the bubbly line and everything. So Jericho is at this point operating at the peak of his powers. You know what I mean? It's just the bottom line is he's all in literally for the company, and he believes, and for the top guy there to have that type of commitment, I think is a good sign. A sign that there is some hope. Even though WWE is still a monster and stuff like that. I think keeping Hager silent has been good. I think that the audience, he's one of those guys. I remember his WWE run. He actually held the belt, for a period and things like that. And then it was like a downhill slide from there. And bringing in Dutch Mantel for the We the People thing. I think it became more about Dutch Mantel in many ways there with the character and the talking and stuff like that. But it's the last thing people remember of him. So of course they're going to chant that. And I do like what Jericho did in shutting it down and really showing that the creative control thing I think isn't a joke, and that it is true. And with certain guys, you probably have to say, hey, keep the reins on that guy a little bit. Maybe he's not as savvy as Jericho, but Jericho right now, he hasn't done much wrong.
Well, and I think that's one of the positives of not having 100% completely scripted promos. These guys are able to work it. They're able to work the crowd better. I mean, he even stopped what he was saying to let the chant go before cutting it down. So he gave the fans their moment. I mean, it's kind of like what I heard. I want to say maybe it was Brian Alvarez podcast where he said, WWE treats their fans like marks. You're marks. You're gonna tune in next week no matter what product we give you. And I think AEW is truly treating it as okay. You guys are fans. You want to chant this? All right, we'll give you your 10 seconds, but then I'm gonna shut it down and become a heel and get it back on track. And that's where Jericho always has shined. He's always shined on a microphone. I mean, that he's honestly one of the greatest of all time. He should be in the top 10 of all time easily.
Oh yeah, and I think it's kind of a shame that this didn't happen when he was in his 30s and stuff. But maybe we don't get the fully developed version of him and stuff. He's letting his body go a little bit, huh? He's starting to look, not in the shape he's been in the past and stuff. He's starting to look a little heavy and stuff. Like you said, he was going to head that way anyway, but you know, I don't know if I want to start worrying about him and stuff. But again, at 49, we are just a couple years away from the end and stuff. I hope he goes out as intelligently as he's done everything else and doesn't, hang on too long a la Ric Flair, where it doesn't, it goes from good to bad real fast. But right now, yeah, I think he's good. What'd you think of Where did I see it? Was it the dark? The dark match. Let's talk a little bit about the dark matches from last week. Did you catch those?
I did catch them. I didn't write them down because I was more focused on tonight's dark and next week's show and my notes. But if you got the match listing, I can definitely
Well,
go
the one I wanted to talk about was I believe they matched up uh, the uh, the dentist, the doctor dentist, Britt Baker with Riho against a tag team of Penelope Ford, a newcomer, and I don't want to garble her name. B
over.
Priestley, was it B Priestley?
I believe so. I
Is it B? Okay, yeah, B Priestley and Penelope Ford against Riho and uh, Britt Baker, and Britt Baker looks like poised to get the push, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if she's going to be ready to back it up. What is your skinny on her from prior to AEW? Do you know anything about her before? Obviously, she has to have some pedigree to be coming in. In a good spot. She had a nice spot at the end of the Battle Royal and stuff like that. But they tried her out on the mic on the first show, and I got to say she was a little bit flat. Maybe the fact is you put her in a tough spot because maybe she couldn't speak her mind about Nyla and whatever the transgender situation is. Maybe that had an effect on it, but I think she was flat on the mic a little bit, and her in ring stuff, you know, it's good, but I'm not convinced yet. What are your thoughts, and do you think that uh, Britt Baker is the next push for Riho? They tag team today. It would be an AEW type of path to say, okay, now they face each other in a couple of weeks or whatever. What's your take on all that?
Well, I used to watch a few of Britt Baker's early on matches. Her striking needs to definitely increase a little bit. Her strikes look pretty weak. I'm not sure if it's the fact that she's Adam Cole's girlfriend plays a part in where she is on the card right now or not, just because of Adam Cole was one of the original being the elite members on their YouTube show. Um, I don't know if that plays a part in it, but yeah, I'm not 100% convinced on Britt Baker. Honestly, I'm more convinced in, well, before she left, Smiley Kylie Ray, I was more convinced in her. Uh, I'm more convinced in Brandy Rhodes, as awful as that sounds, than I am of Britt Baker. Just
Yeah, Allie, has been kind of stepping her game up a little bit, and she kind of gets that haha kind of like gimmicky, like not taken seriously stuff. But I thought her work was looking a little more polished or solid than Brit. I hope I'm wrong, and I'm not trying to badmouth her or put her down and stuff like that. But it is interesting to see that there's some solid competition in there among the women. Was there a tag team match where they brought in another Japanese fighter to face Riho? Maybe Rio's teacher. What was? What am I mixing up matches here? Help me out.
that was from tonight's episode of AEW. That was Riho and Britt Baker against Yumi Sakazaki and Priestley. We saw
Right.
Riho, Britt Baker get the victory. Yes, Yumi is the trainer of Riho. She's also trained a lot of the Japanese Yoshi women overseas. Um, she she kind of cracked me up, man, with her little "We Will Rock You" chant that she
Yeah.
brought. It seemed like she was always smiling. I guess I don't understand. Maybe it's a Japanese thing. I don't know. It was a little weird. But Riho is still undefeated, minus one blemish on her record from a tag team match. And I guess it was announced at the end of AEW that next week it'll be Riho against Britt Baker for the AEW women's title. So Riho defending her belt against Britt Baker. So technically a WWE move. They tag team twice. They got the victory this week, and they're gonna fight next week. So that's
Yep. I'm like, if that's what Britt Baker's going to be at this point, maybe she continues to blossom and develop, and obviously, she's been dedicated to the whole thing. So, but for right now, maybe that is the right way to go with her. Get her in there early. Keep putting Riho over, and let her go back to the pack and stuff like that because I don't know that she's 100% ready just from what I've seen. I thought the new Japanese performer, like you said, put on a show and understood it. And one of the things, you know, I've been to Japan around the fight game, MMA and pro wrestling, and the Japanese smile when they're nervous. It's a kind of they'll laugh when like if you go up to them and ask them like directions, they don't understand you, they'll laugh, and it's like, why are you laughing in my face? It's not at you, it's because they're uptight. So maybe there was a little bit of nerves. I don't think it showed in her in ring work. I think it was a solid match, and
Right.
you know, again in this particular case, I thought B. Priestley was a little more impressive than Dr. Britt Baker, and that's one of those things where next week, if Rio gets over and gets the win, and Britt Baker falls back to the path, I'm fine with using her, and I'll end all the criticism that way, and I'll end all the criticism. But if they think putting her in an extended feud at this point that they've done enough, I'm not quite sure, and I'm not quite sold on the talent. And plus, I think I'd like to see the rest of the women's roster and stuff as well. It's rushed too. I don't even think Riho needs a title defense like right now, like or over. She's about as over as anybody on the roster. They could have just kept doing spots with her and stuff. So very interesting situation there on the women's side. And maybe the only criticism I can level on the AEW path so far is that maybe on the women's side they're a little light in terms of the next challenger and stuff. I'm not convinced yet with the doctor. Any other thoughts? What are we missing here on this one?
Oh, well, we also had Darby Allin against Jimmy Havoc for the number
Oh
one
yeah,
contender for title shot next week on AEW TV, which we saw Darby Allin go over on Jimmy Havoc. I think that was the right call. Darby's a hot item right now. He got a huge pop uh, during his match last week for AEW Dark. I think he probably had the biggest pop other than maybe Orange Cassidy. Which, side note, real quick, I had to tweet Jim Cornette today and shoot a video over when Orange Cassidy came out and said, "You can't tell me this guy's not over when he just got the biggest pop and he's not even in this match." Like the second that guy came out the tunnel, that place erupted. And I mean, that was like Attitude Era Stone Cold pop. I mean, that was loud. That was amazing. Anyway, hence wearing the Orange Cassidy today, by the way. Um, and just to fill in, for Tuesday's episode of AEW Dark, we're gonna have Kip Sabian against Peter Avalon. We are also going to have an 8-man tag match. It will be the Dark Order and the Hybrid 2 against SCU and Shima. And then we have a lights out hardcore match between Kenny Omega and Joey Janela.
very interesting, very interesting. So we'll get to see that on AEW Dark probably come Monday, and definitely the kind of thing where we'll see Omega probably get a notch a win, and that makes sense and things. And also bring in some of the other guys on the roster and things. So I think that's a good presentation rather than extend the show and things like that. Hey, a little extra stuff and head to the internet and things. Again, just nice touches from AEW there, and you kind of still get to see every AEW match, So I think that's a plus there. So what are your thoughts on that overall? The second week here. Are you yet ready? Are you switching back and forth? Or are you sticking to AEW and watching NXT next? How do you feel?
I don't know if we're gonna get notched on the internet, but I'll show you my TV right now. It's actually playing NXT. I'm
Uh,
actually I'm doing double duty right now, so I DVR both shows because I work Wednesday nights, and tonight was rink set up for my show on Saturday night. So between cooking items in the kitchen and bumping around, my night's been filled. And then I don't know if you've ever heard of independentwrestling.tv, but for $10 a month, it's 158 wrestling promotions that post their events on there, and it goes all the way back to the early '90s. So I'm watching 1992 wrestling in West Bend, Wisconsin, with Mid American Wrestling, which is where CM Punk and Colt Cabana and Ken Anderson got their start. So I'm in wrestling heaven this week. I have watched so much wrestling. I'm amazed I'm not burned out, to be honest with you, to be 100%. But to
That's
look
right.
forward, so this is what we're gonna discuss next week. We're gonna be reviewing Darby Allin and Chris Jericho for the AEW title. We're going to be reviewing Riho against Britt Baker for the AEW Women's title. We have the best friends in SCU in the tag title tournament, and then we're also going to have the Lucha Brothers against the Jurassic Express for the tag tournament. So those are the four matches so far announced for next week's AEW TV.
And again, the dark matches will be there as well. So again, AEW, I'm going to give them an A minus for the show. I don't want to give them an A plus or an A. Just because I do want to see them continue to step their game up, kind of thing. I don't want to say this is the best that we're going to get. I think that second show, they give me a lot of hope still. I haven't seen too many of those cringe moments where it's like, oh, I wouldn't have done that and things like that. There are people questioning the Bucks and Omega and Spears and Page, like the many of the core guys taking losses and a couple of losses and with the wins and things like that. There's the open question of how they're going to handle it, but I like that because if they handle it correctly, then absolutely, then and it's credible and the people buy it, and Omega has an amazing comeback, or at some point him and the Bucks actually split up the elite. Maybe they, whatever the situation is, go ahead, tell me a story. I'm okay with it because that's what's coming. I don't think Omega all of a sudden Tony Khan came in and said to him, we're paying you good and stuff like that, but we're going to take this into such a way that you're going to lose every match that you're ever in. You know what I mean? It's like he wasn't brought aboard for that. So we're seeing parts of a plan. I think the fact that it extends itself to the Bucks and even Page and Spears to a certain extent. I think that's the reason to pay attention to it. I think it may turn out to be a very sophisticated blossoming. I think they may have, I don't know that they're doing this completely by ear or unplanned. I think that there is a method to the madness here, and I'm eager to see it. I think they got my attention because, you know, pre the first show, Cody Rhodes and many of the AEW brass, they told you, I realized I was on the indie show and I realized on the show with Kenny Omega that he was the best wrestler in the world. This has been a quote of this is the company line, and he hasn't really shown it in the ring. So you expect when that's coming, I think that's great. I think that'll be a nice reveal. Episode 8, 9, 10, whatever, wherever down the line that comes, it's going to be worth it, I think. So we'll see how it goes. That's really the main thing that's got people wondering and stuff. But they haven't been criticized. People are wondering, and it's like, all right, what are we going to do? Whereas with the WWE, you already fall into the niche of them being predictable. So it's like, we know what they're going to do. They're going to screw it up one way or another, and it's a rut. So we're in interesting times. I give it an A minus. How do you go overall on the show?
But I don't want to keep giving every show an A, so I'm gonna have to go with a B plus on this one. There was a couple of times like during Private Party Young Bucks where it got a little sloppy, and guys got to shoot their clothesline straight. I seen a lot of when the guy ducks and they kind of whiff their arm up. You got to come straight, man. It's your opponent's job to duck that line. That's the one thing I was taught early on training. If you don't duck the line, you're gonna get clipped. So make sure you duck the line if you're supposed to.
Yep.
So just little things like that, just little tweaks. The lights being off before Cody coming on, it seemed to take a little long. You don't really want like 7 seconds of dead air on TV. I mean that, and they are doing it correctly with leaving fans questioning instead of criticizing. That's one thing with the Attitude Era, that they always made you think and then want you to come back next week to see what happens. So I think they're doing a really good job on that front.
Yep. AEW All Elite Wrestling presented their second TNT episode this week, and I believe they delivered. We're giving them an A minus here, and that's because of the strength of the first show that we wanted to just not give them all A's and things like that. But I think they're in the neighborhood, and I think they're bringing forth positive stories. I think that the company line of them just doing what they're doing, and if the WWE reacts or overreacts or whatever, they're just going to continue down that path. The Omega storyline, the Bucks storylines, that's exactly them doing what they said they were going to do. And so far, I think in presentation and stuff like that, they're coming up, as a strong player. I think there was that feeling that, all right, but wait till there's weekly television and wait till they got WWE's attention and stuff like that. Wait till the pressure comes, they'll fold or they won't be able to deliver. So far, they have delivered, and it's been the WWE that's reactions, haven't exactly been, organic. They've been reactionary, and it's noticeable. And I don't know that they've been making everybody happy. The NXT show's strong, but the main brands are still a huge mess. So if you're watching AEW, stick with it. And one of the other last things, I've been rambling, but one of the other last thing is, yes, we're talking about the AEW versus NXT Wednesday Night Wars and stuff like that, but we're all like snake eyes. We're all talking AEW here with our NXT here, and watch them both. Take care of it. It's the high time and a great time for wrestling. And we'll be back to talk about the NXT episode sometime later this week. I haven't seen it yet either, so I got to catch up, and we'll see how it goes. Snake Eyes, any final words?
I am ready to go to sleep and spend my entire day bumping in a wrestling ring training for my match on Saturday. So it's grind time.
Yep. If you're anywhere near Wisconsin, Chicago, that area, get yourself up to what? Give me the name of the promotion in the city, please, so that I don't get it wrong.
I'm working for Wisconsin Professional Wrestling, WPW. We're working in my hometown. It's a tiny blimp on the dot called Kiel, Wisconsin. Population 3,000, big town over here. But it's if I lose, my career's done, and it's been 15 years, and my body ain't the same as it used to. So it's gonna be about 72 hours away from probably the biggest wrestling match of my life, and obviously I'm here every week with you, so I mean wrestling has been my life, so it's gonna be a fun one on Saturday. It's gonna be
Good. I mean, I wish I was there. I'm going to be there with you in spirit. I actually have done about 15 live shows in Milwaukee in my background. They were MMA shows, not wrestling shows, but I love the crowd. The crowd is passionate, and even if it's rainy, snowy, crazy, they show up. And my hats off to the Milwaukee fight crowd and the Milwaukee people. I found their passion to be very strong. We did shows in Milwaukee and in Kenosha. So I guess Kenosha would maybe qualify as a small town, maybe not like Kiel, but so I got a feel for them there, and we were always well supported and stuff. So I think in you, they're getting a passionate performer that has definitely been putting his all into this since we met. You've been talking about this match and things, and it's important to you. So it's the kind of thing where I think we're going to get a magical performance in a small show in Milwaukee this weekend. So if you're anywhere near there, make yourself, support the sport. Make yourself present at the live show, and you can give Snake Eyes here a little bit of a pop for his. He says it's a retirement match, but I got a bad feeling that the bug's gonna hit you. But anyway, my friend, we'll close with that. Tons of luck. Obviously, the important thing here for me is Snake Eyes not only an analyst and talking with me about the sport too, but recognize and respect the guys still out there in the ring and doing the work and stuff. And that brings us an insight that you just wouldn't get anywhere else. So more power to him. And after this weekend, we'll talk about his fight first, and then we'll see what everybody else in the business is doing. Thanks, brother. Talk to you soon, man. We'll check in soon here. I'm gonna end the CRP broadcast. All Elite Wrestling second show reviewed right here.